Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're so excited to have you here on our first webinar of the year with a very interesting topic, actually, the new phishing, stopping business email compromise in 2026. Today, we'll talk about how business email compromise works, why it's evolving so quickly, and what we can do to protect ourselves. My name is Kia Karai, and I'm the marketing coordinator here at Bell Cyber, and I will be your host for today. I'm very happy to have Trevor Brules, who's a manager at CIC here at Bell Cyber. He'll walk us through the slides and talk about his expertise. But before we get started, we also offer live interpretation for our French-speaking attendees, so you can follow the steps as shown on the screen. We'll also have a Q&A session in the end of the webinar, so please feel free to put any question you have in the chat, and we'll address as many as we can. And with that, I'll hand over things to Trevor. Trevor, thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire, for that lovely introduction. Really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, of course, anytime. So hello, everyone. My name is Trevor Brules. I'm the manager here at the Cyber Intelligence Center here at Bell Cyber. I've been with Bell Cyber for almost 3 years now, and I've been in the industry for 13 some odd years. I started at Bell in the professional services team. I was a front-end SIM specialist, an email security SME, a product specialist, an NDR, EDR, VMDR. Essentially, if there was a hat, I was likely trying to wear it at some point in time. Currently, I have the privilege of managing the day-to-day operations of our Cyber Intelligence Center. I oversee analyst training, our incident triage and threat response. I ensure adherence to our SLAs, and I also act as a point of escalation for critical incidents, because it seems like no matter how hard I try, I find myself back in the trenches at one way or another. So I started my career leaning into IT operations and infrastructure. I worked mostly in the financial and mining sectors, and I've been a part of boutique firms to large multinationals. I've seen a wide berth of email security deployments in terms of size, sophistication, and complexity. And I call that out for two reasons. One, an operations first background gave me an intimate knowledge and understanding of the underlying technology that we as security specialists are trying to safeguard. And when you live with change windows and network quirks and legacy systems, you design controls that actually work in production. Two, I've spent time in both tool-rich enterprises, but also in constrained environments. I've used best-in-class stacks like what Bell Cyber offers, but I've also had to squeeze every ounce of value from limited budgets. And while I wouldn't recommend anyone build email security strictly around exchange transport or mail flow rules, having done that in the past at points in my career, it gave me a particularly useful pragmatic lens on email security as a whole. So what breaks, where abuse hides, and why certain simple controls fail under stress. But enough about me. Let's get into what we have in store today. So here's our agenda. We'll start with the state of phishing and BEC, and why email still matters, and what the latest figures tell us. Then we pivot from legacy impersonation to modern AI-scaled BEC. Think adversary in the middle session replay, homoglyph vendor hijacks, and QR OAuth consent abuses. And what that means for us as defenders. I'll show you how our automation-first operating model, XDR and SIM alert correlation, augmented with SOAR playbooks within our Gartner-recognized cybersecurity mesh architecture works in these cases, and how this helps to drive our sub-5-minute containment. Next, I'll walk through a fresh case right out of the cyber ovens, an incident occurring just this last Tuesday, which shows the strength of our systems with the exact actions taken and how they're recorded. We'll close with practical recommendations, many of which you can start today. This includes identity and access hardening and concrete email controls, so you leave with a little bit of a checklist. Finally, we'll try and save some time at the end for your questions and next steps, so without further ado, let's hop right into it. So the question becomes, why is email phishing and BEC still a concern? A lot of people assume email is fading out. But in industries like healthcare, logistics, legal, financial services, and many other core sectors, it's still the backbone of day-to-day operations. In some environments, it's still the single source of truth. The core system for record of approval, invoices, and vendor communications and sensitive workflows. Some of these sectors still rely on older channels like fax. So this is a good reminder that mission-critical communication doesn't modernize overnight, and a lot of these industries are still using this legacy form of control. Because of that, email remains a high-value target. It's where credentials can be harvested, payment instructions can be altered, and trust can be exploited at scale. And attackers have only gotten better. Modern phishing and BEC aren't just bad grammar, and mysterious princes from far-off lands with promises of riches. They're increasingly context-aware, using stolen data, breached inboxes, and automated reconnaissance to convincingly mimic real people, real processes, and real timing. So the reality is simple. As long as email is a part of how business gets done, phishing and BEC will remain one of the most reliable entry points and one of the most financially damaging outcomes. Email isn't going away anytime soon, and neither is the threat. So let's go into the numbers. The most recent FBI's internet crime report stated that email business compromise and employee account compromise remains one of the costliest categories. 21,442 complaints and 2.77 billion in adjusted losses, while broad phishing and spoofing campaigns reported to hit 193,000 with 70 million in losses. What matters is direction. Q2 2024 through Q1 2025 shows steady growth past 1 million quarterly detections. So the signal is not just tapering off, it's continuing to grow, but it's also mutating into something more dangerous. Two themes still persist. The human factor, credential abuse, and social engineering is still implicated in a majority of breaches. And phishing retains its position as the top initial access vector. It accounts for 29% of all breaches for Microsoft. Cloud compromising, phishing alone shows up in about 4 in every 10 cases per Mandiant. In short, email and identity continue to be the shortest paths of business impact. It remains a major concern for most organizations, and it should. It is an extremely common and leveraged attack vector. But the takeaway isn't just volume. It's the attackers don't need malware to win. They need identity and process weakness. So this is exactly where we want to focus some of our countermeasures. Now, I just wanted to take some time before we get into the modern playbook just to highlight some of the more legacy tactics. Classic email phishing depended on impersonation and urgency. Think display name spoofing and lookalike domain coupled with a time box ask. The well-worn example is a CEO needs Google Play gift cards now. But we still see supplier invoice redirections and employee banking change requests. These attacks are low infrastructure and fast. They don't need malware, just convincing language and a sense of pressure. The defenses remain important. Out-of-band callback to numbers you already trust, payment change approvals, and email authentication controls like DMARC and SPF and DKIM. But in these cases outlined as the asks were all in plain text, some of these were very difficult to detect in early security gateway systems. Now, to modern phishing. Adversaries use adversary in the middle to steal the MFA validated session. So they don't need your password prompts again. A common lure is click to fix your account or security alert, verify now. Page looks real, the session cookie is captured, and then it's later replayed. Once inside the mailbox, attackers set hidden rules, exfiltrate or forward often emails externally, or leverage homoglyph domains and hijack existing threads. To slip in updated wire details. What's new isn't the outcome. It's the speed and adaptability of these attacks thanks to AI. Tone and timing and threat context now look eerily authentic. Here's a pivot. Classic phishing used to live outside the mailbox. Spoofed identities and urgency. Modern phishing caused wildfire from inside your tenant after there's session theft. It's persistent, it sets rules, and it studies payment workflows before acting. Not that these lay off the land tactics were not used before, but it's happening infinitely faster now. Well, your response has to change. Yes, keep user training, but our outcomes now hinge on correlating identity, email, endpoint signals, and acting automatically with XDR, SOAR at the same machine speed. So that's the only way to consistently beat a fraud that's been accelerated by AI. To use AI ourselves. But I'll delve a little bit deeper into these modern attacks, and let's go with some of the major players in these scenarios. So I already brought up adversary in the middle. So just for a bit of background, this is session stealing, and it's an MFA bypass through a cookie relay. Adversary in the middle landing pages proxy the real sign-in, so when users verify a login, they're authenticating the attacker's relay. The attacker captures the MFA validated session cookie and then replays it later. There are no new prompts, just access on an active session. From there, an adversary can work inside the mailbox and even the tenant itself. They can send, delete, and read email, but also depending on internal security processes, they may even be able to register new applications, further accelerating their attack. Where classically a phishing link would have a user manually enter their credentials, the nature of this attack steals the session relay in one click. In very rare cases, take a Outlook 0-day that we had from January, an attacker could gain this access from a user opening the email. This fall, they could run escalate privilege, run scripts, install applications, literally just opening the email. It's very scary stuff sometimes. Oftentimes, once they're in, they search for financial conversations. They create hidden rules, as I said, suppress warnings, insert an updated remittance into a live thread. But then AI improves the writing, style, and timing. So the message could land in the accounting cycle, right when they expect it, with the right words, strengthening confidence. From the user perspective, this could look as they clicked the link that didn't work, right? And then they go about their day, business as usual. From the attacker's perspective, they have initial access and a foothold into your environment where they can accelerate their attack and just make things a lot worse. But this is also why we try and frame modern BAC as identity and email working together on the attacker side. So, another major player, QR phish and off consent abuse. So in the same sort of air, we see an increasing focus on mobile via app consent, two helpful flows that feel normal and convenient to users. The attacker gets you to authorize a login or a helpful app, but what if that app can send and read email? What if that is with malicious intent? An email carries a QR code. The user scans it, taken to a login page. This often can be outside standard desktop level endpoint protections, especially in the realm of bring your own device. And that page is either adversary in the middle or shoved through a myriad of different connection relays or coached by a fake application flow that begins to process an automated action. The attacker captures a valid MFA approved session if they're using adversary in the middle, replays it again, no new prompts, proceeds just registering and executing a malicious application, or even uses a trusted application for nefarious means. I'm sure some of you have seen Axio's user agent. It's a standard development tool, but it has been used in Assault Typhoon with malicious intent. On mobile, we also see push bombing. The user is pressured to approve a prompt through persistent attempts. A user inadvertently accepts, and the attacker immediately rides that approval. Net effect as before. Account compromised. Bad guy does bad things. Instead of stealing credentials, the attacker asks for permission. The user sees legitimate Microsoft consent, productivity, that quietly asks, mail read, mail send. And then once you click allow, access is gained, tokens compromised, and even if the password is changed later, it doesn't reject the token unless you reject it. Up until a couple of years ago, most of the major players in email had a hard time catching it. And we've made tons of strides since then, but it's still a major concern for us in the new year. So, on to homoglyphs. This may not seem like something new, and on the surface, a portion of the attack really leverages the human aspect to build trust and confidence. It became a popular social media circulation amongst IT circles in the last 2 years, like a LinkedIn meme, as lame as that sounds, but I digress. Pay attention to the screenshots on the side of the screen now. I'm sure most of us as smart, security-minded, technical geniuses who could do no wrong and spot differences from a mile away can see that, oh, this E doesn't look like this E. This C looks weird. That S looks weird. Great, you got it. It's like, do you really think I would fall for this? And moreover, I'm sure, I'd hope that most of even some of your most click-happy users should be able to pick this apart as well. But I raise this. Who among us can pick apart immediately in these second domains, right? Because in one of them, it contains a Cyrillic character. Now, you look at the differences between the I and I here. Now, even though, me personally, I would be looking for other clues beyond a homoglyph, language, context, the immediacy and nature of the request. Some people may even expect the header itself to pick this apart, run it through MX Toolbox, do all the things that a security-minded individual should do. But maybe if we're feeling a little bit rushed or, God forbid, a little bit undercaffeinated, this might slip past us. But also, if you're sitting to yourself and thinking, nope, I caught the eye immediately, you're not tricking me, I actually lied. Every character in the word apple here is a Cyrillic character. Now, if you've seen this trick before, maybe it didn't catch you. But the thing is that if someone is unprepared, it will very likely slip through. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, Trevor, you got me. The first link looks like that link, but duping links with Unicode, this type of attack has been leveraged since the dark ages of the internet. I even killed my own family computer with this kind of attack. Why should I even care about this? So picture this. An attacker has gained access to a user's mailbox. There's great prior correspondence for context using AI tools. They register in tandem a homoglyph domain that not only passes on a casual glance, but through SPF decom and demarc. They then reply in a chain within a real vendor and then drop new banking details impersonating the original individual in that thread. Hidden rules move sites out of replies out of sight, so it never reaches the real approver. Before, what was mostly achieved through the vendor being compromised themselves can be done within your very own tenant under certain circumstances. And it's only made worse when AI crafts very vendor-specific language and tone. They attach just the right invoice number or PO language, and it turns an ordinary accounting workflow into a digital nightmare. And this becomes infinitely worse when it starts jumping from company to company and then throughout entire industries. And I think some of us maybe in this chat have seen this before because I have seen this even years ago. It was already bad, but with AI, it's worse. Next, I want to talk about email cluster bombs. This is where an individual uses automated signups to flood a mailbox with confirmation emails and newsletters. And while in of itself, it's not an email compromise, it's often used in tandem with email compromise. And for those of us who have dealt with it, it's an absolute pain. It's really quite insidious, and it can absolutely destroy a mailbox. So adversaries could possibly use this as targeted harassment, but more dangerously, they try and bury important alerts. For example, a bank fraud notice, a security challenge, or a vendor reply that would potentially expose ongoing BEC. Personally, I've seen this where accounts were email cluster bombed, and that was used to drown out an employee payroll account change request. The attackers attempting to drown that notification out from the employee themselves while they request HR to change their payment information. Before AI, attackers pointed simple scripts known as mailing lists to a bulk register. It was loud, but it was predictable. You could triage with coarse rules if message body contains unsubscribe and enhance that list to make unsubscribe in all languages. It was efficient, but it was messy and it was prone to false positives. Now with AI, the attack adapts. It discovers new lists in real time, reruns, varies language and templates, spread the loads across many sender domains. The pattern shifts midstream. The static rules fall behind. The result is alert fatigue, and your inbox is absolutely bombarded. And it leads to some very frustrated users and possibly very more frustrated IT people. The approach, cluster bombs, like any modern email threat. Correlation first, automation focus, correlate volume anomalies and sender domain diversity spikes with identity and mailbox signals. For example, new inbox rules on risky sign-in. Then you let SOAR execute the first moves, contain, preserve, and surface the signal, while analysts verify the scope, and then we close with RCA. So I would be a little remiss if I didn't talk about phishing. I know it's not strictly email, but it's still very important and it's still very scary. Now, on the surface, the vector attempts to play our users and not the technology. A calm voice from IT or fraud desk builds trust and urgency. Of course, many of us will facepalm that a user believed the call was legitimate. No, Derek, Microsoft wouldn't call you and ask you your SIN number. Why are you giving them your health information? Hang up. But the issue is with AI, it's only getting better and better. Imagine a user who got a scary pop-up text, instant message, or an email telling them to call a support number. Agent answers as internal IT, Microsoft, the security team. And then they start to present personal info, possibly scraped from previous compromises, or even just through the regular web, if not even the dark web. They provide just enough information to check all the right boxes. And in minutes, they've convinced the user to install a legitimate remote tool or to approve an MFA push so we can fix your computer or your account. From there, the actor elevates privileges, plants persistence, and they may even deploy an AI augmented malware to spread this attack. Constantly varying and avoiding to bypass protections, the voice keeps the user engaged while the environment changes underneath them. Now, this isn't a one-off grift. We're seeing this occur in the wild more and more. And while we're also seeing scripted call centers blended with AI-generated prompts and augmented commands and scripts to increase their efficiency, even still, we are seeing even the voice behind the phone being AI-generated itself. While the initial forays into this were easy to spot, cadence was off, tone was robotic, modern AI voice is becoming incredibly difficult to pick apart by the human ear. Who is to say on the very near horizon, we may very well see the kind of attack be entirely AI conducted? No real person on the other side of the phone, no person running the commands, clicking around the screen, a Vish entirely end-to-end with zero input from the attacker. And what if this was happening thousands of times from the same source in multiple campaigns simultaneously? That's a lot. So let's take a bit of a step back and try and put the cyber ghost stories to bed. Let's try and pivot to a slightly more positive note. How do we deal with these increasingly more complex attacks happening at machine speed? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's one of the fundamental goals that we have here at Bell Cyber, which brings us to our cybersecurity mesh architecture. This is the crux of over 10 years of cybersecurity research and development. The concept of reducing silos and integrating tools we were putting into practice years before it was an InfoSec buzzword. And it was a driving source from us being acquired and transformed into Bell Cyber. So let us proceed left to right and talk about what this is all about. So, from detection, we start with a high fidelity alert. Lands in the SIM as received by a related log source. Now, this could be from O365, Defender, Mimecast, Checkpoint Harmony. Bell Cyber is fundamentally vendor agnostic, and while we may have certain recommendations for clients, certain individuals might favor a tool more than the other. The choice of the tool is ultimately up to the client and what works for their environment. In any case, these alerts could include activities such as risky sign-in, suspicious inbox rules, malicious send-receive email patterns, or a malicious link that was clicked in an email. But with that being said, the alert can trigger automatically based on correlating behavior patterns requisite to standard actions of that environment. And this wouldn't necessarily require a user to click something to trigger an appropriate SOAR playbook. This is based on an associated use case that we've spent over a decade crafting and that we fine-tune by working shoulder to shoulder with clients to ensure the alerts and triggers work in their environment. SOAR then enriches the alert using our threat intelligence sources. We primarily use CyberInt and Anomaly, in addition to several open source threat intelligence platforms. And we obtain context from identity, email, and endpoint, strictly speaking in this email and user sign-in theme. And then we update the incident and record in ServiceNow, so everything from artifacts to decisions is audible and compliant, whether it be from your SOC Type 2 or ISO 27001s of the world. Containment happens with confidence established. The playbook executes containment actions in parallel, which usually entails the following, depending on the nature of the attack and compromise. But let's take the email. We secure the user. We revoke the tokens, force reauthentication, or disable and reset as needed. We secure the mailbox, remove fraudulent emails, kill malicious rules, and we halt external forwarding. We secure the email flow. We block the sender IP at the edge, so this campaign can't re-enter. Once all that's said and done, and once the threat has been contained, Our talented analysts at Bell Cyber will begin to threat hunt across identity, email, and endpoint telemetry to confirm scope and root cause, how access was attained, what rules were created, which mailboxes or devices were touched. We update that in the ServiceNow incident with findings and evidence in real time to provide your organization exactly what you need to return to business as usual. After we understand the root cause, as part of eradication, we work with you to greenlight the restoration of legitimate processes, provide advisement on strengthening email security and user login controls, and we publish an incident report with RCA as required. We then close the incident ServiceNow with this documentation and tag, and we take part in lesson learned conversations as necessary. So at the bottom, right over here, this captures our pride and joy, time to containment under 5 minutes, and it's only made possible through autonomous SOC and SOAR automation. Following that is our manual investigation and eradication activities, which typically conclude within the business day, depending on scope and customer change control. But given the strength of our cyber mesh architecture, this threat may be entirely contained, closed, and documented without the need for client intervention. The greatest benefit to this is that incidents like user compromise and mailbox abuses stop within minutes, not hours. And then we take the time gained from that automated process to empower our analysts to investigate thoroughly, provide advisements on improvements to better your security posture. But don't take it from me. The proof is in the pudding. So the following is an example of a recent attack attempt that occurred for one of our clients on the morning of January 27th, 2026. And while I could have extracted this from any number of days, I wanted to choose a recent attack to further highlight that this is something we're doing every day to maximum effect. So at 5:05 a.m., the client's Proofpoint deployment triggered an alert that a recipient clicked a link on a recently spun up phishing site. It was pointing to a South African hosted PHP login page. That click was originally permitted, but it was immediately flagged by threat intel. This subsequently created an alert in our SIM platform, and 32 seconds later at 5:06, our ServiceNow integration auto-created and routed the incident to the CIC and marked it as a P1 critical. And this is based on internal confidence and agreed upon mapping metrics of the client, as well as what the severity of the incident we believed it to be. This was also auto-assigned to an analyst, and this, in this case, was the primary analyst, but this could also be a round-robin assignment based on the availability of our 24/7 cyber intelligence center. The ticket was mapped with the appropriate MITRE technique and details of said technique, and a link to the incident in our SIM where analytics and raw logs can be viewed. We give all of our SecAsk clients read access to their organizations to empower both teams in investigations. Next, the AI analysis summarizes what happened. It confirms that the URL clicked led to a malicious forum and associated it with credential theft. It extracts sender and domain, the source IP, the click IP. It gives full threat redirect URLs, geolocation, and ASN context. And then immediately gives us actionable IOCs, which are then run against our internal threat intelligence platforms, which further helps us correlate on threat actor groups and attacks and enhances our system and our analysts to perform the best course of action in a given attack scenario. The AI analysis posts recommendations to the ticket, block indicators, reset credentials if they were entered, scan the device if needed, notify staff about the active campaign, monitor for repeat senders and domains. All of this can show up in the ServiceNow timeline, so the client can see exactly what we're doing and why. These analytics are vetted and verified by our analysts to ensure reliability and accuracy. While we have full confidence in our systems and ensure all our auto-containment and remediation function meets a minimum of 95% threat confidence level, we always ensure that we are keeping a human in the loop, just so that we can ensure that we are proceeding with the best course of action. So, back to the incident itself. At 5:10, our SOAR playbook executed first parallel containment. First, we revoked the user's cloud sessions. We've reinforced authentication, saying cutting off any live access that tied to that click. At the same time, we blocklisted the IP in Cisco Umbrella to prevent reentry paths. The ServiceNow record captured these actions, their timestamps automatically. And then it hands it off to the analyst to verify scope. and that status was changed to active customer as the remediation containment processes were already processed. At the time of alerting, to the time of the ticket fully moving past triage, AI enrichment, process containment function, and to state change for client comment, the total time was 4 minutes and 42 seconds. All of this happened without a single person touching this ticket and without a single manual configuration that was pushed or processed. All the actions were pre-approved, and they fired off 2 new cases that our team has worked diligently with the client to implement. And this model is designed for speed, accuracy, and with complete audibility. There's no waiting on someone to open a ticket, no waiting on eyes on glass, no waiting for initial triage. Automation handles the first moves, analysts validate and advise. That's how we consistently stop these mailbox abuses in minutes, not hours. So, if you're thinking, that's all well and good, Trevor, but I don't have the time and budget for all these bells and whistles. But I would strongly still recommend that you have a conversation with our talented sales team, regardless, since we're handling the platform. In many cases, we shoulder a lot of the cost of the heavy lifting. But if you really can't wait or scope out any of that, I want to give you a few things that you can start now, just to sort of give you a checklist on things that I would recommend that you do, just harden your email platform. So I would start with risk-based MFA hardening, and I would move to targeted populations, whether they be teams on your finance or your executive board or your IT admins. You should not be using SMS Authenticator. SMS can be swapped and duped. You can use FIDO2 keys, and you can turn on number matching and continuous access evaluation so approvals can't be replayed. And you disable legacy and basic auth to eliminate bypass pass. So you don't need to flip the whole company off on day one. You start with the riskiest groups and then expand. So I would try, if you can, do a 1-hour hygiene sweep this week. Consider standing admin rights, enforce just-in-time provisioning, or involve privilege identity management for elevated tasks. Check for inactive stale accounts. Putting quarterly entitlement reviews on the calendar and force segregation of duties in your payment workflow so no one compromise can move money end to end. Swap generic training for scenario-based microdrills, a QR fish on a mobile, an OAuth consent prompt for mail read, a phishing script that requests MFA code. Track the report rate and time to report, and celebrate teams for actually working fast and feeding those results back into detections. Encourage an environment that informs suspicion and verification. There are some modules that allow you to leave malicious fake USBs around the office. So if a user plugs them in, they immediately assign training. It's like you're pranking your coworkers, but the prize is more homework. Run regular tabletop exercises with your relevant teams. Rehearse modern patterns that we talked about. So attacker in the middle, vendor homoglyph, even email cluster bomb. Confirm who disables, revokes, or reacts to these events. Who purges and cleans the rules, and how do finance key turners do out-of-band verification if needed. If you need help with your tabletop, we actually do that too. So reach out to us. We might be able to help you. I would recommend move from monitor to quarantine reject for your teamwork where feasible. Most email senders are obligating you to do this. Gmail, Microsoft, even Yahoo is saying that you must be on DMARC quarantine, or else you'll be flagged as bulk. If your email threshold meets, you'll be flagged as a bulk sender, and a lot of it might end up in spam. So you should be doing this. But I see a lot of people still don't do this. And if you're feeling really ambitious, you can implement ARC. So you can really ensure that the bulk of your forwarded email survives. So stay on alert for hidden rule creation. That is a big indicator. And yes, flagging on every mailbox rule creation. Maybe start with internal to external. Like that is a good place to start. Block malicious scripts and file extensions by policy. It's like, don't have people sending PS1s by email. Like, that shouldn't be happening. Implementing DMARC also alerts you for homoglyph domains. So you should be watching out or employing a service that monitors for typo squatting for your domain so you're not being leveraged on this type of attack and ruining your business reputation. Enable display name protections. You could do this in very messy in Exchange yourself, and I've had to do that. There are better ways to do it, and there's tools in which to use it. But yeah, maybe if your sending scheme and your executive board is a very particular name, maybe only allow those people to send it inside your tenant, right? Make user reporting trivial and easy. One button phishing report. Your users are the one being taken advantage of. You need to empower them to be able to put up their hand. If they're scared to put up their hand or it's too complicated, you're going to miss a lot of things. And also, of course, log the changes, document. I know it's difficult. It's hard for me too, but we got to do it so that the process is repeatable. That was a lot of talking. I hope that it was informative and fun for you. It was for me, but I guess I will pass it off to Clea if she has any questions from the audience.
Thank you so much. It was very informative. So yeah, we have a few questions. The first question is, what's the most common first sign that a BC attempt is underway inside an organization?
That's a good question. So yeah, I touched on this like during the presentation. Something that flags immediate risky user sign. Like if a sign-in seems anomalous, like email compromise is essentially account compromise in a lot of scenarios. So sign-in is a big thing, right? And so let's say you don't have something like particularly monitoring that in Azure. There's risky user sign-in. You could sort of audit that. Again, a big flag for me: email rule changes. A lot of attacks, they want to stay in the account. They want to be there. They don't want to get kicked out. So they're trying to move a little bit slower, but also they don't want the user to know. So they will start hiding things, usually in archive, because if they create a new folder, they'll be like, what's this folder? Why is this here? What am I doing? So yeah, like anomalous user sign-in and email rule changes are the big things for the pretext of business email compromise.
Thank you so much. Another question is, how should we prioritize between different security solutions if we don't have the budget to do everything at once?
Okay. Here's the thing. The budget will open up if there is an attack, for one. But if you really are under the gun, and believe me, I've been under there at other companies being like, please, we need something, anything, like it's bad. I get it. Microsoft offers a phishing protection module, and that will help you a little bit. I usually recommend to any sort of client that the first thing that they should get is an EDR, because once malicious script starts running on an endpoint and certain like endpoints are leveraged for that effect, it can be a nightmare. Yeah, but I would also strongly, and then it's auditing sort of your email server, and you could do things sort of like hacky, but it sort of robs you of the speed and expediency that you need for these AI-based attacks. So, yeah, I would press the leadership as well.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for being here today. This was a great session. Thank you, Trevor, and we really appreciate your time. We'll share with you a video recording along with the slides. And thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Reach out if you have more questions.